Welcome to another edition of NNPA and Black Press USA. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas. Before I introduce my very first guest, I want us to play something for you, and then we'll go into introducing my first guest. We're going to play a little commercial clip for you to see now.
Welcome to Richard Wright Public Charter Schools, where we are rewriting the future one student at a time. Located at 475 School Street Southwest, Washington, D.C. If you have an interest in broadcast, dance, theater, journalism, debate, music, art, production, American Sign Language, or vocal music, then do not hesitate to reach us at richardwrightpcs.org or 202-388-1011.
Welcome back. I had to play that because I want you to get a feeling of this wonderful guest that we have joining us. His name is Dr. Marco Clark. He's the founder and the CEO of the Richard Wright Public Charter School in the nation's capital. I'd like to introduce you now to Dr. Clark. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Taylor. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. You know, we go way back. I was introduced to your organization, I don't know, maybe even 10 or 12 years ago. And to see where you are now and where you started from is no small feat whatsoever. First of all, I'm going to backpedal here a little bit. I want you to tell us what Richard Wright Public Charter School in the nation's capital is all about.
Well, Richard Wright Schools is about journalism and media arts. We are about building the next generation of journalists who could actually continue the torch of telling the correct stories of individuals like myself that other folks may not have the opportunity to meet, telling magnificent stories and groundbreaking work that's happening in the nation's capital. And it's all happening by native Washingtonians. We are focused on journalism, from broadcast journalism. We have filmmakers who are creating their own debuts and film that will one day be on Warner Brothers or some other big screen. We are also having these individuals who are going on the Hill and meeting with Congress and actually reporting on what's going on and getting the information out in the community. So Richard Wright is leading the charge. We are the only public journalism and media arts organization in the entire country, and we are excited about the work that's taking place there.
You know, to say something like that, the only in the country, and I'm really going to tell you, we're going to play there's so many videos that I could play. We're going to play a couple tonight, but until you see what we're talking about, what these inner city kids are doing, how talented and gifted and creative they are when given the opportunity, and most importantly, the tools and instructions, what they can do. I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly. We will see them on the big screen, and not just one or two. It's going to be a number of them, and you're going to see some productions here too. But I want to go back to your childhood, because I found out something that I didn't know before about you, and working with you in the community and seeing what you do with these students that are just amazing. You actually have an interesting story. At 10 years old, I believe you were a spelling bee champ, right?
That's correct.
So that is obviously, you want to celebrate that. But after that, I was really kind of taken aback by some advice given to you by your counselor at school. Can we talk a little bit about that, and maybe what's motivated you to do what you're doing with kids today?
You know, just to say at 10 years old, I was that spelling bee champion, a young man who had a thirst for learning, who was super excited about learning. And then the misdiagnosis of a guidance counselor who did not take the time to actually look within the data to see if she was correct in the information she was spreading to me, and just decided to go along with this mislabel. And I'm going to call you a functional illiterate. That label trampled everything that I had in mind around education. It took the thirst that I had for learning, and it crippled my energy around it. And so with that, it took me on a journey of, I would like to say, educational destruction, because I went from being a kid who was excited about school to a kid who hated school. And it took me 5 years to graduate from high school. I graduated with a 1.6 grade average, scored 480 on the SAT. And it was just a blessing that I had two parents that I was accountable to, that continue to stay in the trench with me. And so the work that I do now is because I recognize many of those kids don't have the saving grace of having two parents who were there. And so I have to be that parent. And I promised myself once I became an educator that I would not only look at what data would say, but look through the eyes of the learning of children and begin to create something that would give them that energy that I had before this mislabel came to me, and really keep them excited about learning. And that's what we've been able to do.
Dr. Clark, I am a little bit hesitant about reports that just kind of group everyone together in these algorithms that should tell you what a person is or isn't. I am concerned about that. And to read that about you at the age of 10, that's a pretty critical age where you can really turn someone around and for you, turn somebody off. Talk to me about the educators that you bring into your school to teach your students.
The educators that are at Richard Wright, I think, are the best, the vibrant, brilliant, bold, and those individuals who are not afraid to take risk. Learning is about taking risks because it controls your mind. It takes you to a different place, and you can't learn if you are taking risk in the types of things that you learn. And so the educators that we have are amazing. They're willing to put in extra work. They don't receive the large salary that some places would give them, but yet they're here because they love what they do, and they love the children that they are serving. And the bottom line is that we have a group of servants in this building, and that's the way we look at our educators. Everyone has to be willing to serve, and our kids are our clients, our families are our clients, and we look forward to serving them each and every day. When we finish with an email, every email says, "We thank you for the opportunity, for the ability to serve." We say that when we hang up the phone, when someone makes a call, regardless of what they say to us, our response is always about service. And we have servant leaders at Richard Wright Schools, and we're really excited. And that's the difference maker that's changing the lives of the kids that we have in our organization.
Now, there's been a lot of discussion, not only in the District of Columbia, but across the nation about public schools, private schools, and charter schools, and they're not being controlled by the same, and the kids are being taught differently and not getting the love and the attention. What do you say to people who really want to kind of end charter schools or don't think that the government should support them in any financial capacity?
I say that those individuals really don't know schools at all, and they don't realize that charter schools are public schools who are serving the same students. And in many ways, we're serving a more diverse group because we take students from all over the city, no matter whatever their academic levels are, their behavior levels are. And we say to them that we're going to transform these students, and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is by doing two things. We exchange for more autonomy, we have more accountability. And here's the other thing, Taylor, that's so interesting is that we believe in our product so much that if we don't do it, they shut us down. So we say, if that is going to be the rules for charter schools, let us stand up against those public schools. And if they don't produce, then make sure that they close down as well. Listen, Burger King never gets upset when McDonald's moves on the block. What they do is that they get better if they're going to stay in business. And we say healthy competition is the American way. So we shouldn't have an issue with that. And those individuals who are criticizing charter schools, I encourage them to, go into a charter school and see what's really going on. Understand the work that goes into educating students and how well our kids are making things happen.
How do you select the students or how do the students come to you?
Students apply. And so we do recruitment fairs every year. So a student comes because they desire to come. So there is no blueprint. I don't even know which students are coming. They fill out their application, and we get a cohort list of students who have fulfilled the seat allotment that we have as far as the enrollment ceiling. And then we get those students in, and we take on the responsibility of transforming them. We meet them where they are, and we take them where we need them to go. And that is the gym that's happening inside of charter schools that I wish other people would see and really, really pass the baton and celebrate, because we're doing a marvelous work in educating our students.
Can you give us a description? I know there's not one particular student that you deal with, but can you give us the gamut of the type of students that you're dealing with, that come to you and that you create, allow them to create who they are going to be and what they're going to pour into the world?
We have a mixture of students. We are a student. The data says that we have 100% free and reduced lunch students. We have over 85% of our students are considered at risk. We have a special needs population that is roughly around 30%, but that doesn't stop us because at the end of the school year, every year for the last 6 graduation classes that we've had, every student has graduated with 5 or more college acceptance letters. That is a requirement to get accepted to 5 or more colleges. We've amassed over $5 million last year in scholarships and grants for our young people to go to college. And I can tell you about one specific young man that I'm very, very proud of that goes to school in North Carolina. He's a young man that transferred to us from a traditional public school setting, of which he was a failure. He got to us, we put him in summer school, worked his behind over, and now he's in college. He has a 3.0 and he's on a football team doing well. We transform those kids. Majority of our students comes from wards 7 and 8, which are the lowest socioeconomic wards in the District of Columbia. But we do not allow that to be a crippling effect for them to be successful, but yet a motivator for them to move on and be great.
Dr. Clark, this, hearing you and listening to you, why would anyone not want to support you or understand you or send their kids there? But we're hearing about it. It sounds great, but clearly this could not have been an easy path to take. What was that process to opening the doors and making this possible for hundreds of students in the District of Columbia?
This was a tireless task. And I can tell you there were 120 applications when we first applied to become a charter school in the district. Only 4 were accepted, and we were the only high school program. And so we came out with something new, something fresh, and got out and decided that we wanted to scale the community through our surveys and find out exactly what the community wanted. So we went to every ward in the district. We knocked on doors and talked to parents. We wanted to know what they wanted. And they said they wanted students to have voices that could actually be educated, and that we can kill the fact of so many students becoming illiterate and after having been in school for 12 years. And so that process was an arduous task, but we did not give up. And Taylor, I can tell you, I walked many blocks in the District of Columbia at every subway stop, every bus stop, passing out flyers, talking to children. We spent 2 years doing groundwork before we opened our doors because we wanted to know what the public wanted. We also wanted to know what the children wanted. And that's the way we were able to organize our organization, because it's about kids. It's about learning. It's about what they want. And so this work the mission has always been steady, so we haven't worried about the challenges that's been before us, and that's the reason that we're successful.
I want to take a second now to play a clip. My producer has a clip. It's a film. Is it considered a short film? Because the students do everything from commercials, you name it, they do it. So maybe you can set this one up for us before we play it.
This is a story that's about a young lady who's really telling her own story of what it's like to be a Black girl in urban America and to be a Black girl in the world, as she walks from school, as she walks in her neighborhood, as she's trying to get through to her aspirations and achieve that. This is a story about her and what she goes through. And I hope everyone enjoys it and that it actually goes to their soul to see that what hundreds of young women go through each and every day.
I get told that my hair is unprofessional and my body is too sexual, that if I would just straighten it and cover up, I wouldn't be so unacceptable. People are surprised at my poise and the fact that I'm intellectual because I don't smack my gum and roll my neck like I'm expected to. And the ideal beauty pedestal don't belong to girls that look like me, even when it comes to my own brothers. And deep down, it hurts, like I'm a default choice by men I grew up being taught to put first, that my sister feels privileged to be light-skinned, as if dark skin is a curse. Businesses won't promote me up the ladder but promote products for me to buy, and welcome me with open arms to reality TV because everyone loves a good black cat fight. Now respectfully I decline just to scroll down my timeline to see people mocking me left to right saying how bitches be like. I'm told I can give to a black man but not be desired by one. I'm told that I can get sexed by a white man but spend my life trying to get wifed by one. But to be sought out and respected, courted with a genuine connection that's manifested and invested by a man, that's asking too much. When I don't look for a handout, they're telling me I'm being ungrateful. When I reject sympathy, I'm viewed as bitter and hateful. At times I question if it was really worth it to be so strong. The more I stand tall, the more I'm a target to try and make fall. But then I remembered through the voice of my God-given intuition that if it wasn't for me, then it would be no human existence. And while my aesthetic blessings are far from my definitions, women all over pay doctors to make their bodies do their best black girl rendition. As Queen Hatshepsut, she was a successful ruler in Egypt. Even as a slave woman, she led thousands to freedom. She revolutionized civil rights, and all while being seated, and presently her mentee is the most powerful man of the free world. The lies that blind society were also meant to fog my mirror, to only show me a pretty picture and not the true depth of my potential, so that I can accept what is given and pass that down to my children. But through trying to break me, they only cause my spirit to strengthen, so my vision is clearer. Now I'm one of the most college educated and employed at higher rates than even my brothers who hate it. And for those of us smart enough to see that together we're stronger as a team, I'm the glue of black families who bring back our queens and our kings. I'm black girl fly, I'm black girl fly, I am black girl fly.
Wow, just powerful. You are watching NNPA and Black Press USA. That just literally teared my eyes up. I'm talking now with Dr. Marco Clark. He is the founder and CEO of Richard Wright Public Charter School that's now in Southwest Washington, D.C. Was that a school project? I know that your students produce things like this all the time, from, clips to movies to funny things to commercials. What type of project was this?
Well, this is a project around domestic violence, and so they wanted to do some things because there's so many women who are victims of domestic violence, and this was one of the ways they also wanted to express some of the challenges that they have as young ladies. Coming through their communities and just trying to complete their aspirations by going to school and focusing on trying to get to college, and so we thought this was a very great cinematic way of expressing everything and through verbiage and visual that would get that message out there, how precious our young ladies are.
What do your students tell you they want to do or become? What type of careers?
Our young people they're into film. They want to do mass communications. They want to do what you're doing, Taylor. They want to continue the legacy of greatness, of getting information out, the richness of research, and being a part of the thrust of changing communities, especially communities of color, because we are the voiceless community in many ways. And so we're trying to create these young people because they say, I want to change my community. I believe in my community. And that's what we're trying to do.
I wish we had some of the clips I remember from a couple of years back where the kids were doing the scary, these little, they were, I don't know, 3 minutes, and they did these scary things. I mean, it wasn't scary like blood curdling, but it was scary. I don't know how they did it, just the emotions and how creative these kids are. I am always impressed when I hear something that you're doing and celebrate what you guys have accomplished. One of the big things that you do every year, fundraiser, is your Roxy Awards. Can you tell people about that? And is there going to be one this year?
Yes, we're going to have a great gala. We change it up a little bit every year. We're adding a little more sauce to it, and so this year we have an event called sundresses, stogies, and sneakers. So it's a sneaker ball where we're going to have the films, little caveats out there, and we're going to be giving out these awards and raising money for our young people because we want to get them to college, but they got to, once we get them there, we need to make sure that they remain there and graduate so that we can go on and continue this bridge that we're building for others to follow. And so this year is going to be June the 11th, and it will be held at the North Hall on the Eastern Market in Washington, D.C. And it's going to be a phenomenal time. We're going to get the information out to everyone, but it is June the 11th, and we need everyone to come out and be a part of it. It's going to be one of the most sultry events of the year. And the Roxy Awards will be going to those young people who have demonstrated and created these awesome films.
And let me tell you, it is literally an award show. Lights, cameras, action. The kids are dressed, the students, the talented students are dressed in formal wear. It is so much fun. The red carpet. And normally the after party is usually star-studded as well. Because I can roll through the names. I remember Dougie Fresh. I thought that was the coolest thing having them there. But yeah, you guys bring them out.
You know, this year we're going to have some folks there from the show Power. You know, Michael Rainey is one of our great friends and supporters, and so he's there every year. We've had Amari Hardwick and several others have come and been a part of it. So it is a night to remember. So we want folks to come out and be a part of see what young people are actually doing, because we know that the news, a lot of times the other stations only share the 10% of the students who have challenges. They forget about the 90% who's actually doing some phenomenal work.
Let's jump now to some images that we have, because I guess I want people to really get what I'm saying about what you're doing and how groundbreaking and historic it is, even in the nation's capital. So my producer is going to pull up some images, and I want you to tell us what we're looking at or where this was taking place.
This is our brand new building. It is a $20 million building that we've moved into. We just renovated a Class B building. We're downtown DC. We are about 3 blocks away from the Capitol. This is the third location that Richard Wright Schools has been a part of. It is a 6-story building, and it is a state-of-the-art on the inside with a studio and photography rooms, art labs, and dance studios. This is our ribbon cutting, where we had the opportunity to actually have our executive director for the DC Public Charter Schools and our state superintendent, Dr. Grant. And so we were just amazed. Dr. Michelle Walker Davis and Dr. Christina Grant were there. It was an amazing time along with my board of trustees. This is the inside of the school. This is what we call the Wall of Fame. These are our donors. These are $1,000 names up on the left side, and over the elevator, these are our $25,000 donors or above who are on the wall there. And since this picture, we filled up even more.
Wow.
This is the great grand bosses of my amazing fraternity, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, along with several of my young men from Richard Wright, and a requirement to be in uniform because we are a uniform school. This is the great Reverend Jesse Jackson, in which he came to visit, and one of our very own students had the opportunity to interview Reverend Jackson on this amazing day that he was here. We'll never forget that. He took the time. He spent an entire day. He was supposed to be there for an hour, but he fell in love with the school so much that he remained there and had lunch with students. He was there for about 8 hours. And of course, we had the opportunity to meet the lovely and our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, at the White House, and have a time to spend time with her and to have lunch with her. And these are some of our amazing students who had that opportunity. This is the great Stacey Abrams, who also had an opportunity. We met her at a Brookings Institute meeting in which we were invited to be her personal guest right there. And we spent an entire day with Stacey Abrams and talked to her about her movement and talked about her aspirations to become governor.
Wow. Then that's just a little bit. So I can understand the Reverend Jesse Jackson when he got there not wanting to leave, because I'm telling you, you have got to take an opportunity to visit this school, pour into it any way that you can, and you will be surprised at what you see. We just showed you a snippet. There's so much more to this school and to these amazing students. And to hear that one of the requirements are 5 college entrance acceptance, that's huge. It gives them something to work through and work towards. I want to ask you, I'm not sure if you can still see me. I want to ask you, in regards to how people can support you, what and how can they support you?
Well, first of all, nothing says love like a check. So they can always make sure that you make a donation to Richard Wright Public Charter Schools. You can reach us at richardwrightpcs.org and just click the donate button. Everything is a tax write-off, so feel free to make that donation as great as you would like for it to be. And also, we love to have great partners and mentors, because everything is not about money. We want our students to be able to connect with folks and understand the value of networking and expand their knowledge base on the work that they're trying to do. So those are areas that we look for always with our students, as well as awesome opportunities with internships that you could help us make things happen. We're into making dreams come true.
I absolutely believe that is definitely going to be the case. So you have the Roxy Awards that's taking place in June, and we can find out more information on your website if you'd give it to us again slowly.
It is Richard Wright. It is richardwrightpcs.org.
And click the donate button. They even have it up there. As we close out with you, Dr. Marco Clark, because I can talk to you for hours, and we're going to have to do something before you do the Roxy Awards. I'd love to spend the show just showing clips of some of the work that your wonderful, talented artists have been doing at the school, because again, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's something else to see that these kids are putting together what you just saw. That young lady, she thought about it. She did the storyboard, she did the video, did the editing. This is not parents and adults doing the production work. The students are doing it. And that, if I had a school like that when I was growing up, I do not know what and where I would be now. I'm serious, because I was always a big dreamer, and I did a little bit in school, but it was when I got into college where I got to experiment and kind of break new ground there. So Dr. Marco Clark, the founder and CEO of Richard Wright Public Charter School, now in Southwest Washington, D.C. I have to thank you for what you're doing for kids, and any words of advice for schools across the country that are struggling. Teachers care. You have to care to be in this business. Anything that you can give them to connect the dots, even if they may not have the resources right now.
Listen, it's things are not about always about dollars, because we know you can never have enough money. But you have to keep remembering that no matter how tough the mission, your challenges are, remember the mission is worth it. And so you have to stay focused on your mission and understand exactly where you're going, and know that there's going to be challenges. There's resources all across the country. You can reach out to me, 202-388-1011, and reach out, and I'd love to connect with you. My email is mclark@richardwrightpcs.org. We can make sure that we connect on that. And just remember this, what my motto says: you can't beat a person who's determined to win. And the bottom line is that all of you educators are determined to win. So never allow anyone to beat you, regardless of the challenges before you. Remember your mission.
You see why the kids are so great. You see why they're so great. Again, Dr. Marco Clark, thank you for joining us tonight on NNPA and Black Press USA, our fireside chat. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you as
no
always.
Problem. Oh, yes. We'll check in with you for June. All right. So now we're going to transition here. I want to introduce you to an organization that is celebrating 25 years. And for some of you, you may not have heard of them before. I'd like to introduce to you the executive director of NAAIA, and that stands for the National African American Insurance Association. Joining us now is Miss Margaret Redd. Good evening.
Hi, Taylor. How are you doing?
I am wonderful, and I am excited to talk about what your organization's all about, considering you're celebrating 25 years. And if you're not in the insurance industry, you may not know about it. So will you tell us about NAAIA?
Oh, of course, I'm happy to. So the National African American Insurance Association was founded in March of 1997 by Gerald Tillman. Gerald was and is an agent. He was about 20 years into his own career at the time. And as he, looked around and gauged his surroundings in terms of the industry, he noted a couple of things. One, there didn't seem to be a vast number of African Americans employed in an industry that he was finding to be very professionally rewarding and financially rewarding. And then secondly, for those who were in the industry, there really wasn't a viable way to network, collaborate, or to support one another. And so based on just noticing those pieces and having an itch and an energy and an interest in mitigating those issues, he met with some folk who shared those values, and NAAIA was formed. NAAIA's vision from the beginning, its mission, is to increase the numbers of African American insurance professionals and to provide a very viable way to network, collaborate, and support one another in the industry. So that's a little bit about our history as an organization.
Now, what's your background as far as how you united with NAAIA?
Well, I, like many insurance professionals that I've met across the years, I stumbled into this industry. It wasn't, something that I woke up one morning and said, I want to major in insurance. I want to work in the insurance industry. I happened to be at Jackson State University, where I graduated in my senior year. And I interviewed with one of the companies that I interviewed with was an insurance company. And as I sat there in that interview, and it was going really well, I was literally checking off the boxes, right? Thinking, okay, I want to work in a professional environment. Check. I want to be able to be financially independent. Check. I want to see a little bit of the world. Check. I want to be in a position to give back to my family and my community. Check, check. And so when they made the offer, I said yes. And now 40 plus years later, I'm still in this industry. I tripped into it, but once I got inside those doors, I learned so much about what was available and what the possibilities were and are. And from that initial entry as an underwriting trainee to now, I've worked with several companies. I've moved and lived in a half dozen cities. I've been at the officer level position for most of the last 20 years with major companies. And I've just had a fantastic run. And in addition to that, I've met some amazing people along the way. So about 25 years into my career, I received a call from a peer that I had formed a professional relationship with in the Chicago market. And he basically said, there's this national organization. It's been around for about 5 years. They're looking to charter their first chapter, and they're looking at Chicago as a market to do that in. And I'm thinking about, leading a formation team. That person was Matt Cooper. And to that request, I said yes. I joined Matt and about 6 other individuals, and we became that formation team. And that chapter, the first chapter for NAAIA, was chartered in June of 2003. So we led the way in terms of chartering chapters. And today we have 20 chapters around the country, a footprint in each major region of the country. We have membership just under 1,500. And we're excited about not just where we are, but where we're going.
So let me ask you in regards to why possibly do you think that either African Americans are unaware of or not seeing the advantages of being in the insurance industry?
Yeah, well, I think there are several reasons and pieces to that. In terms of that awareness, it's it's kind of hard to be it if you can't see it, right? And for us, Black youth and young people, our exposure to this industry is very limited. And not just youth, Anybody, right? People will have a familiarity maybe with the claim adjuster, because some people will have claims, whether it's on the life side or your car or your home or something like that. And then there's the agent that's selling you the policy. So there's some familiarity from that perspective. But when you think about the fact that most any career that you could think of, you can find in this industry, whether it be, lawyers, technology experts, underwriting, sales, marketing, risk control, risk management. It runs the gamut. And even in the medical field, we have nurses doing nurse case management work, doctors on staff, especially on the health side of the business. And so it's an amazing array of career opportunities that we in our industry are all guilty, I think, of not doing a good enough job of telling our story. The other part of it, though, is most people, if you mention insurance or an insurance career, I say that, I should just say, I think of my own two kids, I get their eye rolling, like, oh my God, that's boring and blah, blah, blah. But it's because they don't understand it. They look at me real strange when I say it's very interesting and exciting. But for me, it's because I have been exposed. And so the work that we do as an organization, part of that work is to, kind of chip away at that exposure issue. And so that we can work on attracting more people, especially young people, into the industry, but also helping to retain the great talent that we have as we seek to grow the base.
So what is the educational background that would require someone to pursue a career in insurance? And you just told me there's everything. It's not just the adjusters. You just told me you have people have a medical background, a legal background. I mean, this is wonderful to know.
It is. And that's the thing about it too, is first of all, we're always going to need insurance, right? And when you think about the issues that the average person may face across their lifetime, or business may face across its business maturity, insurance is the backbone, right? Because when something massive happens, something catastrophic comes, something unplanned happens, that insurance that person or that business has purchased allows them to put their business back in order, to get their life back in line, so that they're not set back tremendously, right? And so I think just the idea of what we stand for, who we are, and the value that we play into individuals and companies and even the lives across our country, it makes me feel good to be part of that, right? But when you think about the majors, to the point of your question, it could be any number of things. That's why I mentioned just a vast array of jobs. I remember, Taylor, a few years ago, I was in a high school as part of a career day, right, to introduce the children to our industry. That was my role that day. And they had about 3 or 4 of us representing different industries, going in and out of different classes, talking to the kids. So when I walked into my first class, I was paired up with this young man. And we had talked a little bit, but I didn't really know where he was from or what work he was doing. But it didn't take me long to find out. So he was going up first. I was coming up after him. He walks up to the front of the room. He opens his mouth and starts this little chant from the radio, and every kid in the room knew what he was talking about. He worked for Power 97 radio station, and everybody was leading and snapping, and they just were so excited. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to come after that. This is too cruel. So when it was my time to go up, the first thing I said to the kids is, your greatest challenge today is to be excited about what I'm about to tell you as you were about him. Okay. So that kind of laugh broke the ice. But then I said, you think about all the wonderful things that you know about the music industry, and how excited you were to hear from Nate and him talking about the radio station. Let me just, give you a couple of examples of how my business plays into that. You think about some of these great concerts you want to go to, and I named a couple artists. I said, if there was a tremendous storm and rain and that thing was rained out and they couldn't have that event, there's rain insurance to cover that, right? If there's somebody that gets sick or injured or whatever, there's health insurance to cover that. And so, you think about how the role, and so I caught their attention because I was able to relate that to something that they were very interested in. And I think that's key. But building this awareness around the industry and the careers that are in the industry, it starts really before young people get to college. We really have to start in high school, when kids are really trying to think about what it is I want to be. Because most of us don't come out of the womb knowing I want to be a doctor, I want to be this, I want to be that. A lot of us are like me and you, maybe. Well, I think you knew you wanted to be a journalist. I just knew I wanted to work in business, but I wasn't so specific. I didn't know I wanted to be in insurance. So for us, part of the work is helping the young people to know that we are out here. I'll give you one more quick story.
Please. Yes.
I remember a few years ago, we had a gala in Chicago. It was our annual fundraiser, and it was a beautiful turnout. We had a speaker from one of the universities in Washington, and he just did a wonderful job talking about the industry, talking about opportunities and that kind of thing. And so after the event was over, one of the young people who was actually serving at the event, he wasn't an invitee, walked up to a group of us and he said, I'm in school over at Illinois State. I am pursuing my my degree in actuarial science. I had no idea that there could be a connection between what I'm interested in and what you guys do in this industry. So I'd like to know more. And he truly found that out, obviously, by accident, right? And so our goal is to try to make sure that, more young people know about who we are, what we do, more about this industry and embrace opportunities, and not necessarily have to trip into it, but it's very purposeful and intentional in terms of us coming together.
I wonder, though, Ms. Redd, if some of the disconnect may be with the myths of, when people think of insurance, they think of people who used to knock on the doors, and that the myth of, it's not being, it's a good occupation. It pays bills and it takes care of family. It allows you to travel. And then I wonder if some families just can't even afford basic insurance, so they shy away from talking about it. I'm sure it's nothing I ever heard growing up as a kid. Yes, you have car insurance or house insurance. I don't even think as a kid I thought of house insurance, but I do think it's something that should be in a dialogue before they even get to high school, to even know that's an option. And you're exactly right. So that table discussion with their kids, what are you interested? Have you ever thought about that? So I can imagine that being a challenge to work that in addition to all the other things that are going on now, right, in the country. So I can imagine that. But you are smiling for something really big. This year marks 25 years that NAAIA has been around. And with that is a big upcoming fireside chat that I have, full disclosure, the honor of introducing and interviewing the special guest speaker, correct?
Absolutely correct. So we have James Cole Jr., who is an outstanding individual in his own right. And he's going to be our special guest for NAAIA's Fireside Chat on Tuesday, the 8th of February. And of course, we're really honored to have you there as our interviewer, Taylor.
I'm really, really excited. And I have a surprise for you now, Ms. Redd. Right now, I'd like to introduce everyone to the special guest. Yes, Mr. James Cole. Yes, he is joining us. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, ladies?
Hey, James, you know how to crash a party.
I know, this is a big deal because, James, this is the time when you're putting your son to bed. So I want to thank you for taking time tonight to pop in and to talk to us. You have an incredible story. Your resume reads like a who's who. You've worked in the Obama administration, but to bring full center right now, you have just been recently selected to be on the board with AIG, one of the largest financial and insurance companies in the U.S. That is huge. That is huge.
Thank you. I didn't hear the last part, but say again.
I said that is huge, to say the least.
Thank you so much.
Selected to be on the team.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much, NAAIA, for inviting me to the Fireside Chat. I can't tell you how incredibly excited I am about Tuesday. I'm very excited about AIG. It's just a wonderful organization. I'm so excited to be joining it at such an exciting time. You guys probably know a lot about what's going on. We're spinning off life and retirement. We have a new CEO. We're working on transforming AIG 200. So I can't wait to talk about AIG and the board and the work we're doing there. But I also can't wait to talk about Black History Month generally, and just to talk about careers and what we as African Americans can do. I love to celebrate Black History Month every month. Every month of the year is Black History Month for me. But February has a particularly exciting ring to it.
Now, your background, you started off in what before you, I mean, you're not necessarily directly in insurance. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And there's a part of you that I know from talking to you before today that is really about getting African Americans where they want to be in their careers, whether it's the C-suite, whether it's on boards, but really connecting the dots and getting them to where they want to be.
I am so excited to talk a lot on Tuesday, a little kind of sneak peek, if you will. I began my career as a lawyer. So I went to law school and I practiced law for 15 years at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz. And that literally is how the story starts, because I was an M&A lawyer. And one of my first clients back in 2004, 2005 was Marcia McClellan. And back then, Peter Zaffino, who is currently the CEO of AIG, and Lucy Fato, who is currently Executive Vice President, General Counsel, were both at Marcia McClellan. So they were clients of mine back in the 2000s. And I had such an incredible time working with them that the rest is history, shall we say. We had a couple of interesting things happen. I left Wachtell Lipton to go work for an incredibly inspiring, tall African-American man by the name of Mr. Barack Obama.
Yes.
But a lot of things happened in between. But it really, my relationship with insurance and AIG started back then, not as an insurance executive, but as an M&A attorney giving advice to an insurance company.
Now, Ms. Redd, the fireside chat that I'm going to have with Mr. Cole on Tuesday, February the 8th for NAAIA, it is open to the public, and it's not just for people in the insurance agency or industry, correct?
Absolutely correct. We see this as an opportunity for anyone who's interested to, one, get to know James, two, and hear his story, and certainly learn more about NAAIA and our industry. So it is an open opportunity.
Now, James, you have a passion, as I mentioned before, of really connecting with African Americans specifically. What drives you to be at the level where you are? You don't have to do it. And obviously you should want to, but I'm just saying you don't have to. What drives you?
I am so incredibly blessed to have had African Americans throughout my career help me. All the way back to 8th grade, my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Mitchell, who was an African American, took me under his wing and mentored me and nurtured me. Throughout high school, Dr. Caldwell in my junior and senior years, Miss Webb when I was in my freshman year at the University of Illinois. I got to Wachtell Lipton. I was the first African American partner, but I was adopted and groomed by African Americans who weren't even at Wachtell Lipton. Ted Wells from Paul Weiss took me under his wing, the late, great Vernon Jordan, and they really molded me and mentored me. And I would often say, well, what can I do for you? And Vernon in particular would say, well, when I send somebody over to talk to you, be nice and give them advice. And so I was raised into a culture by other African Americans helping me. And they all said, what you have to do, James, is give back. And so if I can just give an ounce of what they gave me to my peers, to the young people coming behind me, oh my God, what a blessing it'll be to be able to do that.
And I know you're going to have some advice no matter what stage of a career someone is in. But can we start with our millennials? I know there seems to be a lot of advice that we're giving them because they are a different breed. And I need you to reach out to them now and kind of pull them in. And again, keep in mind this fireside chat that I'm having with James Cole Jr. on February the 8th for NAAIA is open to anyone. You do not have to be in the insurance industry, but of course it'll benefit you if you're thinking about it. But what kind of advice can you give for millennials? Because I'm hearing now that they're not really worried about salaries. They want to be able to have their pets. They need to be in a room. I mean, I can't believe they're making all these demands so early.
Well, I will tell you, the first thing I want to say is I am phenomenally inspired by our millennials. When the work I've done with them over the years, at first I was like, okay, they're very different from us. Do they want to work really hard? I got to tell you, I am so incredibly inspired. Many of them want a lot of the things that you said, and that's very true. Many others of them are members of the gig economy. Many of them want to be entrepreneurs. Many of them are trying to figure out, how can I have more responsibility for my life? How can I have more work-life balance? So a lot of them are saying, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, whether it's become a sales agent and open up your own Allstate or AIG or wherever you want to do and be and hang your own shingle. Or more of them are talking to me about, how can I be an intrapreneur? How can I work within a large organization and have more control and be more thoughtful and add to what's really going on in the workforce? So what I would say is they are far more varied than I've ever expected them to be. In some ways, they dream in ways that my generation didn't know we could dream. And I get so excited about all the different things that they can do. So I would say, please come and listen in and bring your questions, because we're going to have time for a Q&A after our fireside chat. And so I'm just really looking forward to engaging. I do believe there is a world, I have a 4-year-old and I sit on the board of AIG, and I'm the CEO and founder of a big investment company. And I also run a venture capital fund where I'm investing in tech startups. I also executive produce film. And people say, how the heck do you do all of that? And what I would say is, you can, in fact, do it all. Because as you said, I have to pick James up from school at 5:30 every day. I have to have dinner with him every day. I have to play with him and read to him at night, because I'll get the business if I don't. And then, though, you find a way to have balance. And I do think time management has a lot to do with it. But there are some other little tips that I'm not going to share now. You have to come to the fireside chat. But there are other tips I think that we really can. There's a fallacy that somehow, if we're going to be good, we have these miserable lives and we work 100 hours a week and we never see anybody we love, and sure, there are times where I'm working really hard, but there is a way that I believe, if we work smart and we do what we love, have passion about what you're doing, there is a way not only to enjoy what you do as a career, but to also have work-life balance.
I think that's important. And we're also going to talk about the opportunities that are available now that companies are responding to the death of George Floyd, and how they're trying to be more inclusive with their hiring practices and promotion practices. We're not going to talk about that now, because we have some time to talk about that on February the 8th. But Margaret Redd, I want to ask you, what made you, other than the obvious, choose James Cole Jr. to be your special guest for this 25th anniversary of NAAIA?
Well, James just made my case right now, right? And this is the why. This man that you see, you hear, you feel his passion as he's speaking. And, that's part of it. The other part of it is James is in a very small group. When you think about the numbers of African-American males or African-American peers who are sitting on these boards of insurance companies or any board, but certainly in the insurance industry, right? James, I think you would agree with that.
Yes.
And so that in itself gets your attention, because you look at him and you think, oh my God, this guy, you have to imagine there's been a lot to this journey that we all need to understand. One of the things that NAAIA has been very purposeful and intentional about is bringing forward people like James, who can provide some insight, drop those pearls, help us all to kind of understand what we need to understand to better navigate our own journeys and to support others. And so for those reasons, and because he is who he is, we are so totally excited about this opportunity.
You are too kind, Margaret. Oh my God.
Well, I had to tell you, when you guys, we're going to have a lot of fun on February the 8th, because James is a ball of information and energy, and it is contagious. Once you start talking to him, you're going to start. And by the way, have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, because you're going to want to write some of these things down. Some of the things you may have heard before, but this is a person who's done it, and he's at a level where most people, honestly, will never achieve in their life. Not to say that's not possible. I'm just saying the majority of us will not achieve what you've achieved, with not even directly saying, this is what I want to do. They select you. They saw you for what you've been doing. And apparently a number of some really interesting relationships, but we're not going to get into all that right now. I want you to know how you can take part and join, and it's absolutely free. You don't have to be a member, and you don't have to be an insurance agency. But where can they go? I think my producer may have where they can go if you want to register for this February 8th event. Here it is. You can register. See right at the bottom, bit.ly/NAAIA, NAAIA BHM, and that stands for National African American Insurance Association. So right there tells you where you can register. It's absolutely free. And, I'm all about making 2022 about the year of change. And some people need to make big changes, and some need to make small changes, and some just need to be educated. And I love getting information. You never know what our keynote guests will say to you to inspire you, to help you. We are still in the midst of this pandemic. We believe more variants may be coming our way, and to be able to adapt and maneuver with the advice that you're going to be providing us with the possible resources that you can get by being a member of NAAIA, it could really change and make a difference in someone's life. And it's about connection. And now that we have this social media vehicle to the magnitude that we have, we should truly take advantage of it.
Hear, hear.
Well, listen,
amen.
James, it's about time for you to put your son to bed. So
Yes.
I want to say thank you so very much. And I'm going to see you on the 8th.
I can't wait. I am just looking forward to it, and looking forward to everyone who's going to join. We're definitely going to leave space at the end for questions, because I love talking, and Taylor and I can do our chat, but I'm really looking forward to getting questions and directly responding to our audience. So thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. And Miss Redd, as we close
Thank
out,
you,
any
Jane.
encouraging, yes, Miss Redd, any encouraging words as we close out tonight's program with you?
Well, yes, I would say to anyone who's listening, don't pass on this opportunity. It is an awesome opportunity to add to what you already know, and certainly learn some things that are new, learn more about the insurance industry, and to be encouraged by another person's story. We all need that encouragement. We might not be having a good day or a good kind of run with our career. It's so amazing and so fantastic and so exciting and encouraging when we can be around and in the presence of someone who has, especially someone who's willing, again, to drop those pearls. So join us on Tuesday the 8th.
I really appreciate it. Again, James Cole Jr. and Margaret Redd, I want to thank you. And before we close out tonight's program, I want to give a big rousing cheer and support for our American Olympians that are in Beijing, because I believe at the top of the hour, the Winter Olympics begin. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all of our wonderful athletes that are there, that they're safe and they come back to the country safe with lots of medals. So
Yes.
Until next week, everyone. Yeah, I know. Until next week, everyone. God bless and goodbye.
Thank you.